we go. Welcome to another episode of the Sussex Non League podcast, where we take a look at all the latest goings on at grassroots football across the county. I'm Mark Dunford, and on this edition, I'm joined by Sussex sport guru Steve Bone and a special guest. Steve and I are both delighted to be joined by Littlehampton joint boss Mitch Hand. Mitch is well known as one of the management duo alongside George Gaskin, who led the Marigolds to Wembley for the 2022 FA Vase final, a truly memorable day for the club, their fans and the whole town. Mitch spent roughly 99% of his career playing with Littlehampton before taking on the management role, but also turned out for Wick, Worthing United, Hastings and Shoreham. So, Mitch, thanks for joining us. How's the season been so far for Littlehampton?
It's been similar to the last couple, really. It's been a bit up and down, struggled for consistency, but with the level we compete at now, it's difficult because every team's so good. So you don't, there's no gimmies, so you can't expect to be winning every game, really. But yeah, I mean, it's good. The club's still going in the right direction. That's the main thing, and we're doing all right. So at the minute, I say it's okay.
Mitch, we can't have you on as a guest without sort of going back to 2022 and Wembley and the FA Vase run. Although it was 2.5 years ago now and 3 seasons ago since the run, is it still talked about at the club? Is it still talked about around town? You know, is it still something that Littlehampton Town are sort of benefiting from, if you like?
Talked about, not so much. It's funny, isn't it? Because you think of the final, but the build-up and the run is talked about more. The games beforehand, probably because we won those games. But I'd say it is something that we have sort of left in the past. But you can see the benefits of what happened that year everywhere, around the club, around the town. The knock-on effect of that run and that final has just been massive. So yeah, you can still see the benefits, and we're still reaping the rewards from it. But talked about like sort of daily and consistently, not so much. No, we're very much trying to move with the times now.
You just have to get to Wembley again, give them something else to talk about sometime.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, we'll give it a go.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, Littlehampton are now in their 3rd season in the Isthmian South East Division. You've held your own pretty well, but was it a big jump to make from step 5 to step 4, or do the club's ambitions go higher than that?
At the time, it was a huge jump because you got to remember the clubs had no history of competing at that level. So it was massive. It was the jump the first year didn't feel as big because we were obviously on the back of winning so many games. So we stepped into that league and we were really confident, to be honest. And I think by Christmas, we were about 7th or 8th. I think we were sort of in and around a good position in the league. But then the reality of the league sort of hits you after Christmas when the novelty's sort of worn off and you go into, I think the first season we went to Hythe away on a Tuesday night, Sheppey away on a Tuesday night. So we used to go into sort of Shoreham's and Wicks round the corner. So that sort of, the reality of it slapped us in the face a little bit after Christmas. But yeah, we love competing at this level, and now that the club's they've had a good chance to get their eye in. Now we can start looking at sort of progressing further. I'd like to think that we're fairly established now at that level. So then obviously you've got to start thinking about moving forward, and the club are doing so much to be able to do that, to help us do that. So yes. It's an enjoyable league to be in because obviously the competition's so high. Like we went to Deal on Saturday in front of 700 fans and played, and it was a great game of football. So it's like yes, it's hard and it's difficult with the travel, but you do feel like you're playing football at a proper level, and I think that's what the boys appreciate and they like. So yeah, I mean, for the club, we're always trying to move forward and trying to improve. So there's no point standing still. So I think that'll take us a good couple of years to be able to think about that realistically. I look at Chai as a really good example of a team that went up, stayed up, consolidated for a few years, and then they gave themselves the opportunity to go up, which they've done. And I think they'll do the same. I think they'll do the same at that level. So I think they're a really good benchmark for any Sussex team now.
Yeah. Just a supplementary question from me, Mitch. What about yourself? Have you got ambitions to manage at a much higher level, or are you happy with where you are?
For me, management was really strange. It was something I never really thought about. The only reason I did it is because Littlehampton asked me to do it.
Right.
So I wouldn't be in management now if Littlehampton didn't ask me to do it. And to be honest, I've got such a good relationship with the club, and and with the chairman and the people at the club, I've been around for sort of 15 years. So they've always said to me that we'll be managing the club for as long as we want to do it. With me and George, I've said to George, I'd love to. I've never thought about managing another club or going higher, to be honest. If I'm ever going to go higher, I want it to be with Littlehampton. So for me, no, not really. I haven't got ambitions to go higher personally, but I've got ambitions for us as a club to go higher. So I don't really think about that personally. We've been so lucky, me and George, with the club, the way they've been with us and to us. I'd say we are the most comfortable, and we have the least pressure out of any management team I've probably ever met. So we're so lucky. You don't really get that. You see clubs at our level sack managers, and for me and George, we're like, wow. Whereas for us, I mean, we're happy, we're comfortable, but we want to do better. But that's hand in hand with the club. Yeah,
that's interesting.
I wanted to ask you a bit about the sort of relationship between you and George, because it's quite unusual to have joint managers where one is just joint manager, but the other one is actually player manager. Obviously, it's been the case for a long time, so you've made it work. But is that an unusual sort of situation to manage sometimes, or does it just work?
From the outside looking in, it probably looks unusual. But you got to remember the year of the Vase. Me and George were both playing at the beginning of the season, and we had a game. I think it was at Peacehaven when we were both on the pitch, and we needed to make subs, and we needed to do this and do that, and it didn't work. And we literally said to each other, "Right, one of us is going to have to be on the side at all times." And that, and the problem is George is much better than me, so George has to play. So it does really work, and people don't believe us, but I can't remember sort of any disagreements we have. We've always got the best interest of the team, and George is brilliant with it, to be fair. Steve, you've probably seen the amount of times George comes off the bench and steps out of the way for other people to come in. So for us, it works really well, and we're both good at different things. George is amazing at the organising. I genuinely couldn't do it without him. He's brilliant. He's spot on with all of that. And I tend to do most of the talking because George is concentrating on playing. So, it works really well. We almost, and I think at this level with the workload, you need bodies. You really need bodies. I struggle to imagine how you could do it on your own. Like, I think of the last 2 weeks, we went to Ashford away on a Tuesday night, and we went to Sheppey away on a Tuesday night, Deal on the Saturday. The travelling, the workload, trying to juggle family life as well. So we're really lucky with the way it works. It does just work.
Wanted also to ask you about your sort of approach to football, because you're in the nicest way. You strike me as quite old school in a way, because you're very much somebody. You're a manager you'd rather win a game 5-4 than 1-0. I know that you very much think one of your roles is to send a team out to entertain as well as win. You're not really in tune with some of the sort of new football methods that some of these sort of younger managers and coaches have. Is that fair? All fair comment? I'm getting that from what I get from I speak to you and get comments from you after a lot of Littlehampton games, and that's the sort of that would be my summary of your approach to football. Is that fair? Do you think?
100%, yeah, spot on, Steve. You probably know my sort of ideals better than anyone when it comes to the game. But for me, it's just what I've always been used to at Littlehampton. It's always been sort of blood, guts, bodies on the line, scoring goals, trying your best to stop other teams scoring, running as much as you possibly can. I played for Mark Bennett for 7 or 8 years, maybe even longer, who was the most old school managers you've ever met in your life. So for him, he literally used to read out 11 names. There was no such thing as a tactics board. He'd tell you your numbers 2 minutes before you went out. And it was always this 11v11, run harder than them and you'll win. And to be fair, we did. So for me, I think that works. And obviously the year we were really successful, we were built around scoring goals. So for me, that's the only success I've ever really known, is to go out to win games. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes we have had to try and adapt and move with the times in terms of the way we play. But I always think it does come back down to the fundamentals of working hard and trying to score goals and being expansive and trying to go out and play. It doesn't mean that we're dinosaurs and we bang it long and we hope for knockdowns and things like that. We do try and play football, believe it or not. But everything we do is built around the basics. And I always think it comes back to, I always try and say to the boys, it always comes back to the club and the club's sort of hard working identity, which is we're not very nice to play against, and we like to work hard, and we put a foot in, and we get red cards and own goals and everything happens at Littlehampton, things that don't usually happen at other clubs. So yeah, we are fairly old school, but it seemed to work for us up until now. So,
and it's what I think.
I
think it's what your fans probably expect now. You know, they want to be entertained. They don't just want you to. They don't want to see sort of over technical football, over complicated football. They know what they're going to get from one of your teams, and it's still what they're getting.
Yeah, and for me, like again, I'm a Man United fan, so I grew up on 90s Man United, which is two fast wingers, get down the line, get crosses in, get it to the strikers, and that's just always been football for me. So my thing as well is, to be honest, I said to George, if I'm going to basically retire and not play, then I want to watch something that's worth watching. So when I'm watching my team, I want goals, and I don't mind like the red cards and the carnage. I like all that because that's what you want to see as a fan, and I like watching it. So if it gets to a stage where I don't like watching my team, that's when I'd probably struggle to do it anymore. But yeah, with the fans as well, it's so similar to the chairman, to the club, to the committee. Again, we lose games and they're exactly the same with us. They understand where we've come from and where we're at. So again, no pressure. It's such a lovely environment to manage in because it's I've never had any sort of negativity at all that I can remember that's been sustained at all anyway. So yeah, we're so lucky to be at the club that we're at.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the fans, but you've answered that now. So there you go. Excellent. Right, we're gonna move on to the look across the non-league pyramid in Sussex now. Steve, I know you're going to bring Mitch in to come at some of these, but last weekend we saw 5 of our sides in the FA Trophy, second round, I think it was, and with the highlight being a West Sussex derby between Chichester and Worthing. How did our sides get on, Steve, and who came out on top in that derby?
Yeah, so we had three out of 5 teams from Sussex getting through to the next round of the trophy. So Chichester Worthing was a good game, actually. Chichester gave Worthing a really good game, pushed them all the way. It was 2-2 quite late on. Danny Cashman then got a late winner for Worthing to put them through. Also going through last weekend were Eastbourne Borough. They left it late as well. They were 1 down at Dorking. Fellow National South team got a late equaliser through Moussa Diarra and then went on to win 4-2 on penalties. Max Metcalf, their goalie, was the shootout hero there. And Horsham, you know what Horsham do in cup games. Give Horsham a cup game, they tend to win it. I think they've now only lost 3 of their last 30 cup games or something mad like that. Incredible record. That's really. Crazy, so they were home to Maidstone of National South, again high league opposition, and they won. They got through as well. So Chichester went out, as we've said, to Worthing, and the other team in Sussex to go out were Lewis, who were a bit disappointed to lose at home to AFC Totton from Hampshire. But we've got three teams through, so we still got some interest there.
And the third round draw was held on Monday with National League sides entering the competition. How did the draw pan out, Steve? Who have we got?
Yes, so Worthing are probably happiest with the draw. They're at home to Gosport, my hometown team, funnily enough, in the next round. But that's step 2 against step 3, so Worthing will fancy their chances there. Horsham have got another big away day. They like their cup away day, so they're off to Torquay in the next round. The fans will love that. Getting down to Plainmoor, and Eastbourne Borough have got yet another cup tie against Boreham Wood to play. That's the team who knocked them out of the FA Cup. Played them in the league a couple of weeks later. So yeah, plenty of interest there in the next round. Worthing will be happiest with it. It's the last 64 now, and Mitch, just to bring you in, when you started getting through the rounds of the Vase in 2021 to 22, you know, I guess the excitement mounts a little bit. People start to think, well, how many more games have we got to get through here to really do something? There'll be those sides still in the trophy will be thinking that now, won't they?
Yeah, kind of. But I think the way it works in these FA competitions is I just think you're just praying for the next one. I don't think you think to yourself, we're 4 away from this or 5 away from that, because it is too sort of forward thinking. I always thought that when we had it, I always just thought home draw, next one, home draw, next one. And then you almost think I remember every time we were getting through, I just kept thinking, oh, we get another day like today. So good. Like it might even be even better. So genuinely, I don't think, unless you're a real top club, like I think clubs like Worthing and Eastbourne Borough, who beat Dorking, will probably be looking at it thinking, wow, we've got like a decent chance here. But the rest of them will genuinely be thinking, can we nick a home tie or can we nick a big away tie? A bit like Horsham have done. So you only, genuinely, it's one of them cliches in football, but definitely in these cup ties, you only think of the next tie because you feel lucky every time you get through.
Yeah. Sticking with Cup, we had midweek action in the Sussex Senior Cup. 5 third-round ties took place Tuesday evening, with one being postponed. Who came out on top in those games, Steve, and who is in the hat for the quarter-final draw on Saturday?
Yes, so we've got 6 teams through now to the quarterfinals. This week we saw Worthing beat Eastbourne United 5-0, I think that was. Bognor beat Hastings. Horsham beat Eastbourne Town. Whitehawk beat Haywards Heath. And I'm missing one as well. Eastbourne Borough, of course, won at Lewis, didn't they? Yeah. 2-1 at Lewis in another good game. Last week, Lancing got through. They won at East Grinstead. So those 6 teams are through. The draw is, I believe, Saturday night. BBC Sussex will probably be carrying news of that, as will we online. There are 2 ties to be played. One of those is an interesting one. Well, they're both interesting, but Burgess Hill against Brighton under-21s is due to be played start of December. Probably give Burgess Hill a chance in that, the way they're playing this season. They're doing very well at home. The other tie, which I'm going to ask Mitch about, is Crawley Town Gatwick against Littlehampton Town. It was postponed this week, I think, wasn't it, Mitch? That's going to be a bit of a tricky little trip for you, isn't it?
Yeah, we always struggled against them, actually, when we played against them in the County League. But I'll tell you what, honestly, we were so lucky it got called off Tuesday. We were missing, I think we were going there with about 13 fit players. We were missing Joe Ben, Rob O'Toole, Ryan Thomas, Dale Dewar, who is on loan from Eastbourne Borough, is cup tied. He actually played for Eastbourne Borough in the Senior Cup. We were missing so many. So it was a bit like on the day we were scrambling. And the fact that it got called off, just when you think, oh, thank God for that. But yeah, it's always tough going there. They're always a good side. They're always sort of top 6, I'd say, in that league, aren't they?
They are this season, actually, aren't they? They're about 6 now. So, yeah, but Sussex Senior Cup is, you obviously want to go as far as you can in that one.
Yeah, again, we played last year. I think we beat Bognor and Worthing on the way to the... Did we get to the semi? I think it might have been the semi against Hastings.
Yes, I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so, again, it just gives you a good opportunity to play against this club, play against these clubs, and sort of a taste of... I always think if you can play against your Bognor and Worthing, for me, are the main ones, who they're the clubs who one day I want us to be playing on a Boxing Day or a New Year's Day. So it's nice to get a sort of taster of them fixtures. And to be honest, we do seem to do quite well in them games. Don't get me wrong, they're both class sides. We don't really want to be drawing, but if we do, it's always good. I always think it's a good occasion, loads of fans, good games. So yeah, hopefully we can get through in a tricky tie and then get one of the big boys.
Yeah, absolutely. So meanwhile, Eastbourne Borough and Worthing are going great guns in National League South. How have the Sports and Reds been getting on since the last podcast, Steve? Seems like there's been plenty to be positive about.
Yeah, both doing well. Eastbourne currently 3rd, Worthing 8th, I think. But it's very tight at the top there. You've got Western 3 points clear, but you've then got, I think, the next 7 clubs separated by 3 points. And Eastbourne and Worthing are both among those. And I think Worthing have got a game in hand over most of the sides above them as well. Both still a little bit inconsistent, but I mean, all the teams in that league are a little bit inconsistent. Nobody's running away with it. They've both had an away defeat recently. Eastbourne Borough and Worthing, both lost away from home on the same day without sort of looking like getting anything. Both at home tomorrow, though. Eastbourne Borough are facing Bath City, who have just got rid of their manager, so it might not be as easy as it might have been otherwise. Worthing at home to Chelmsford, which will be a real good battle between 2 teams with big ambitions, and it's the home form that will probably sort of govern whether you stay in that little top group or fall away a little bit. Worthing are actually at home for every one of the next 5 Saturdays. Strangely, we had a piece with Chris Agata this week, so they've got 4 of those are league games, and they've got the trophy game in the middle of it as well. So that's if they can if they can get on the front foot, if they can win that first home game, that really gives them a good chance of momentum.
What a job he's doing, by the way. What a job he's doing. What a job that Aggie's doing, to be fair. I actually liken going into Worthing after Hinch like going into Man United after Alex Ferguson. It's such a difficult job. And you think of the levels that you think of the levels that Hinch set to even go in there, and I think a lot of people probably expected Worthing to struggle in their first year without him, but he seems to have gone in there and just sort of picked up where he left off. And I reckon they're the type of side. I think they'll put a run together, and I think they'll be in the playoffs definitely. What a job he's doing!
And when you consider he's lost Ollie Pearce as well, 43 goals.
Yeah, which he's they lost a couple, haven't they? Joe Felix, Ollie Pearce. They've lost a few of their best players, but he just seems to have signed more, and they just seem to be a conveyor belt of good players there.
And obviously Hinch is doing a great job at York City, isn't he, as well? So National League. So
unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. In the Isthmian Premier, Lewis continue to enjoy a strong start to their campaign, but struggling Whitehawk and Bognor have enjoyed less luck. What's the latest from the step 3, Steve?
Yeah, so let's go from the top downwards. Lewis are still in the playoff zone there and have done really well. No, I've said it before on this podcast. Don't think too many people expected them to be at the top end after all the changes they made there in the summer. But Craig Nelson and his staff have done really well. And their league form has dipped a little bit, but they had a really good 4-1 win home to Bognor last week. Having gone out of the FA Trophy and Sussex Senior Cup this week, they'll be looking to the old cliche, concentrate on the league for a bit now, and it'd be interesting to see if they can put a run together. You got Horsham and Chichester City both sort of just below midway. Chichester doing okay. They're happy with where they are. They're happy with how they're playing. They're picking up points here and there, home and away. Horsham probably would be higher if they weren't already 3 or 4 games behind the rest because of all their cup games. Happened to them last season. They're going to have to play catch up. If they can keep players fit and avoid too many injuries, they'll be in the top half pretty soon. The disappointing thing is the bottom 2. Bognor second from bottom, Whitehawk bottom. Bognor have shown some signs of recovery lately. Decent draw at home to Carshalton last week and then beat Hastings in the cup, as we've said in the week. So they will think they are maybe turning the corner now. Whitehawk will want to do the same pretty soon. Hopefully those 2 won't be at the bottom for much longer.
No, indeed. One division below in the Isthmian South East, Burgess Hill Town are having a storming season. The Hillians currently occupy a playoff place, but in stark contrast, 3 of the division's 4 relegation places are occupied by teams from Sussex. What's the latest from the Isthmian South East, Steve?
So Burgess Hill still doing really well. They're 5th, I think, at the moment. Again, the top end of that division is quite tight. You know, you can win a game and go up from 6th to 2nd, things like that. Ramsgate look as though they could, and I'm going to ask Mitch about this in a minute. Ramsgate have won 14 and drawn 1 of their 15 games so far, which speaks for itself. Looking to sort of get over the line, which they didn't quite do last year. So Burgess Hill are the top Sussex team in that league. Eastbourne Town doing really well after promotion from the SCFL. They're in 12th. You've then got Broadbridge Heath, Littlehampton and East Grinstead just below halfway. And at the moment, we've got 3 Sussex sides in the bottom 4, which is 3 Bridges, Lancing, Stenning. But Mitch, it's still quite early days, really, isn't it? There's a lot of football to be played there. You've got more than half the season to go. Any side that's in the bottom half can still have aspirations of getting in the top half, can't they?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those ones. It is hard to say because it's really difficult to put a run of wins together. It is really difficult because there's just no easy games. You've got to go to every other week. You've got to go to a Sittingbourne or a Ramsgate or somewhere which is difficult to pick up points. You can pick up points, but I will also say the other way around. When you get in that losing rut and you're in that bottom 4, it's really difficult to claw yourself out of it. So although you know you've got the comfort of having lots and lots of games left, it's hard to see when you're in. I've been in that situation with us maybe last year where you look at a run of fixtures and you actually think it's hard to see where the points are. But you've got to have almost that attitude where you can just drag yourself out of it, and you've got to have the players that can do it. But yeah, it's an unforgiving league. It's so hard. I always compare it to the Championship because you can beat anyone, but you could easily lose 4 or 5 in a row as well. It's tough.
Of the sides that you've played so far, which 2 or 3 have impressed you most?
So we haven't played Ramsgate or Sittingbourne, unfortunately. We've got Sittingbourne Tuesday night. Ramsgate for me this year will win it by about 10 points, I think. I think they'll win it an absolute canter. Sittingbourne are really, really good as well. They're probably the best of the rest. But the teams that we've played against, Burgess Hill were really good. They were really good. We beat them in the trophy, but we lost to them away from home. I think they'll do well. What's difficult again though is they seem to win every week, but they've been 6th or 5th for 4 or 5 weeks. So you just think that shows the quality because everyone up there is just winning. Everyone up there just wins, win after win. Teams we've come up against, Sheppey, always good, always tough. But yeah, it's just. I think the best is yet to come. Unfortunately for us, we're to play Sittingbourne and Ramsgate, and I think they're the two that are levels above. And when you look at Cray Valley and you see what they're doing in that league above, Chichester, I actually would say the top 2 teams are already. I'd class them as top 10 teams in the league above anyway. So that just shows the quality in the league.
Oh wow. Yeah, absolutely. Finally, we're going to talk about the SCFL Premier. A 2-horse race has emerged for the title involving 2 near neighbours. What's the latest from the top and bottom of the SCFL Premier, Steve?
It is a bit of a 2-horse race at the moment. Hastings and Haywards Heath. Hastings top at the moment. Played a game more than Haywards Heath, but they're now 3 points clear of Heath, having won sort of 3 games in just over a week actually to sort of go clear there. But those 2 are more than 10 points clear of all the sides behind them. So you've got Hastings top, Haywards Heath, and both of those sides have still only lost 1 game, which is in quite a tough league is quite impressive at this stage. So they are more than 10 points clear of the rest. The chasers include Roffey, Petersfield Town, and Bexhill as well. Bexhill had a really slow start to the season after Ryan Light came back and needed to sort of rebuild the squad, but they're doing really well now. They're up to 5th, so they're ones to watch. And obviously with the playoffs in that league now, 2nd to 5th playing the playoffs, lots to play for there and lots of interest for quite a lot of clubs. Crawley Down, Gatwick, who we mentioned earlier, are up there as well. They're in 6th. Mitch, is that a difficult league to get out of? It's a few years now since you won it, but like all the other leagues we've talked about, very competitive, and there's a lot of teams that are looking for that top spot, aren't there?
Yeah, I love that league because it'll always be my favourite league. I just so much sort of like nostalgia of it, but it is a tough league to get out of. But you look at it now, and it really reminds me of the Hassocks and Haywards Heath situation. Really reminds me of the year we won it, and we were going up against Saltdean, who had such a good squad. Their squad was player for player was better than ours, and we all accepted that at the time. They had a lot more resources, shall we say. And I think it's similar now. I think Hassocks are a bit like us, probably not spending too much money. Got some young managers in that have sort of like galvanised the squad, put them together. Their togetherness is really good. I've seen a few of their videos on your instant replay, and I really like them. Haywards Heath, I think, are probably stronger in terms of what they've got. But I think Hassocks might have that little thing that you need that gets you over the line. So that'll be an interesting one. No, I love, and do you know what as well, is I love seeing teams come up from that league that have never been in this level before. I don't know if Hassocks have. So yeah, I'd love to see them go up, to be honest. But yeah, it looks good this year again, that league. I think it struggled for the last couple of years with the quality of it, but this year seems to look good again. Seems to have picked up again. Good sides in there.
Yeah, it really is. And James Westlake, lovely bloke, isn't he? The manager of Hassocks. I like James a lot. Followed his athletics career as well. Good runner.
Yeah, he was horrible to play against. He was horrible to play against.
He?
Never stopped. Yeah, never stopped. He's good friends with George, actually. I think they grew up together. I think they might have played at Wimbledon together or something like that as kids. But yeah, I'd love to see them go up. I want to see them win it, if I'm being completely honest. Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. Right, and as is customary, we're going to pick our games of the week to look forward to, me and Steve. So I'm going to go for High versus Stenning Town in the Isthmian South East on Saturday. Big game at the bottom, 18th versus 21st. A win for Stenning would see them leapfrog Hive and potentially move out of the relegation zone. So, yeah, big one for Stenning there. What's your game, Steve?
I'm going to go for one of Mitch's old teams, one of the teams he played for, Wick, who are away to Haywards Heath in the SCFL Premier. Homes Heath have had a couple of little, not really setbacks. They lost in the Sussex Senior Cup. They drew 0-0 at Petersfield last week. They will be keen to get back to winning ways in that one. And no disrespect to Wick, I think they probably will. You take Heath to win that at home to Wick. But Wick are doing okay, actually, after promotion from Division 1. Mid-table, they've turned a few teams over. So, should be a good contest, that.
Excellent. And finally, Mitch, the Marigolds host Merston tomorrow. Are you going for another 5-4 win?
Probably. I'm just, you know what? Hopefully it's on. I think we've struggled a little bit with the pitch this week. We weren't able to train, but yeah, I mean, Littlehampton at home usually means something. Goals, red cards, own goals. I don't know. Something crazy will happen. I'm sure of it.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. The weather as forecast is not good tomorrow, is it, for the rain and stuff? And so there you go. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Mitch. It's been a pleasure, and we wish you all the best for the rest of the season. And don't forget sussexworld.co.uk/sport, and our newspapers are the best place to get your Sussex Non League coverage. So thanks, chaps, and speak soon.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.